Hello YouTube. So today I wanted to take a nice walk in the park and discuss something that's been on my mind a little bit lately, something I've been thinking about, and it's about endings. Endings in general and endings in media. And what I'm mostly talking about is how the big movie, I guess, culture right now in this kind of era where we are is franchises. You'll see a lot of movies that are there to start a franchise or who do well and suddenly have a sequel, and we all know Marvel and DC, and none of the films really coming out are concise stories within themselves. They lead on to the next story. There's cliffhangers, or there's things that's setting up something 3 or 4 movies down the line. And I'm wondering if we have forgotten how to end things. Like, it's rare that you'll find a movie now, a good movie, that's a story within itself. That it's not a franchise, it's not going to have a sequel, it's not going to have, well, anything coming after it. It's just a story within itself. I think that's quite rare today. I was thinking about it and I was wondering why. Besides the obvious cause of money, you see this in other things. You see ridiculously long book series, you see comic series that will kill off a character, and yay, emotional. You would think until that character's back again, a few issues down the track, brought back with something, because they're a very popular character and people want them back, but people don't know what they want. The character keeps on coming back from the dead in a universe. It makes kind of death meaningless. It makes kind of things unearned. Like, when I'm reading a comic, when I'm reading a book or something, I don't necessarily want my characters coming back unless there's, well, a good reason for it and there's sacrifice in it. Or it fits the story. I don't want them coming back just for, well, money so we can get a new issue later down the track. Or people who have plot armor. Like some of the best books I've read have had who you think the main character is being killed off, or just having the main character killed off, and somebody else takes over the reins the next book if it is in a series, or the book might just end. That's not necessarily a tragedy, that's just knowing how to end well. And I'm not saying every ending has to end in death, I'm just saying you know when to finish the story and let it go and let it breathe. Otherwise you're just going to keep on bringing out mediocre media to try and keep your own dream alive. It's kind of going, well, why are you doing it in the first place then? I mean, it's a bit harder to say with big movie studios who are obviously doing it for money, but people will go along to see their favorite superheroes. They'll pay money for that. That doesn't necessarily mean these movies are good. They're a success. It doesn't necessarily mean they're good. And this is where kind of the idea of franchise fatigue comes from, but I think it's a bit more wider than franchise fatigue. I think we're in need of good endings, and it might not be what we want. We might want that character to continue forever. We might want that character to come back from the dead in a magical way, but if we look deep inside ourselves, I think we're not really that satisfied with that. And so why don't we want things to end, and why at the same time do we want things to end? I think we don't want things to end because we're afraid of endings. We're afraid of things ending in our own lives. Change is scary, whether it's a job ending or a relationship ending or moving house or a number of different things. None of them in themselves necessarily bad or good, just endings that needed to happen. But we're afraid of that, and that's all right. But it still needs to happen, so the next part of a story or a new story can be begun. If you're never able to end anything or end anything well, you'll never be able to start new things that will build on the old things you created. I think this is why I really love storytelling in games. Mostly standalone games, but even like long franchises usually are standalones in and of themselves. And they tell a good story, and it's usually summed up at the end of the game. That's kind of what I want. That's what I want to see in my movies, in my books, in my comics, in my media. A definitive end. And yeah, you can have stories around it, maybe prequels or other things, bringing out further characters, but really, I just want things to end and end well so new things can be created. And for studios not to be afraid to end these massive franchises that they've created because they're afraid that they'll start losing money. No, you're able to build something new. You're able to build on what you've done before and tell new stories that aren't within the constraints you've placed on yourself by putting these stories in this world, in this franchise. You just got to be able to let it go and let it end. And not keep on expanding on characters or stories and keep on flogging that dead horse. Sometimes you gotta let the horse die with dignity and remember it fondly. Alright, maybe that wasn't the best metaphor to end on, but I think my point still stands. I think that we need to learn how to end things again, to allow stories to just happen in one movie. Gosh, I'd even take a trilogy right now. It's a lot shorter than what we've been getting. Anyway, if you have any thoughts on endings or I guess character death or anything I've kind of talked about, feel free to leave it down in the comments. Feel free to leave it down in the comments or the comics, whatever you feel so inclined to leave your ideas and opinions, and we'll start a conversation down there. Otherwise, I hope you have a great week. You'll probably maybe see me next week, and don't forget to be awesome.